Welcome back to the final installment of the Wrath If story. Reinhardt has started his attack and Pandemonium is falling apart. But Pandemonium, the building, is falling apart. Pandemonium, the action. You know what I meant. At this point, the story goes back and forth between two people, and some of it is happening at the same time, but I'm going to keep the order the story is told in. I think that'll make more sense. The building shakes as Amelia stares at the ceiling. Unsure of what she should be doing in this situation, she simply lays in bed, wasting time. Leah, the end has come. Like so many times before, she could do nothing. Even making a decision to move was too much. Reinhardt's here. It's Subaru's defeat. A moment of shock hits her. Not at the thought of Reinhardt being there. Not at the thought of Subaru losing. She never doubted he would win, even against Reinhardt. This was the thought that shocked her. He would win, and then he would come back to her to rest. Until today, I've never rushed Leah's choice, but that can't be done this time. You have to make a decision. It looks like all this time Subaru has been controlling information properly. There isn't any sign of Leah being involved in the organization's activities. Well, Leah really wasn't involved at all, but having been with them for so long, some people with suspicions will show up for sure. This was a necessary precaution. Wasn't involved at all? Then what kind of position was I in? From Roswell's mansion you were kidnapped and locked away. That's how they're treating you. Then those children attempting to destroy Pandemonium right now seem more like rescuers who came for you. Leah, if you just sit here and wait nicely, as a poor princess, your rescuers will aid you. But Puck lands on her shoulder before disappearing. It's clear what was being said. If Amelia leaves, there's a chance the attackers will think that she is with Subaru's group. This time she doesn't hesitate. She stands up and goes to the door. The door was locked from the outside, and Puck only unlocked the door for Subaru and Frederica. Amelia reaches out to touch the door, and it instantly falls apart. Subaru, you twit. Did he leave the option because he thought that she would never try to escape? Or did he want Amelia to have that choice? She would find out directly from him. That's what she decided. I've said this multiple times, and I guess I'm just going to keep harping on it, but Amelia is useless. Even in the canon storyline, she's just doing as she's told. Everyone treats her like a child, and she doesn't make any decisions for herself. And it's pretty much the same here. At least now she's decided to move. There's also a hint that Reinhardt isn't the only person there, which makes sense. They probably brought enough people so that nobody could escape. Subaru and Hollybell run down the hall. Subaru thought about the path that led to this moment. Just how much suffering had he caused? With the weaknesses of many people in his hands, and all the while receiving their hatred, he would lord over their lives, and on a whim take those lives. No, it was never on a whim. Subaru was afraid of people. Whether to believe the people who were with him or not, worrying about that was idiotic. Subaru had decided on a way to simplify relationships. Everyone lied. With that, even if all human beings detested Subaru, a world devoid of problems would be established. Every human, no matter who, possessed a weakness. Family, a lover, wealth, dreams, hope. If the weaknesses of every human being in the world could be grasped, then, only then, Subaru would not have to doubt anyone. Right now, the world as it appeared to Subaru had lost its colors. People, objects, paintings, magic stones, blood, water, all were black and white. Only 3 people looked colorful. Only those were real. Everything else was fake. Beatrice had been so. Amelia was so, and one other. Subaru could not believe in anyone else. Even Hollybell, his top official, was colorless. Subaru had expectations of Reinhardt. Maybe those with color before would have remained without those colors fading. However, he appeared to Subaru just as monochrome as someone he had just met. Such expectations had been fleeting, and so Reinhardt, despite how vivid he had seemed, now appeared as an ashen mass to Subaru. There was no doubt that he too would continuously lie. That was all there was to it. This colorblindness is going to be a big point going forward. And I've seen some people say that it's just a metaphor, that he's not actually colorblind, it's just to show his perspective on the world. I'm honestly not completely sure. To me, it seems like he is actually colorblind since he can't see the difference between different liquids and magic stones, which are very clearly different colors. But I can also understand the case that he's not actually colorblind and this is just a way of showing his black and white perspective of the world. Either way, I don't think it makes a huge difference to the overall story, but I still wanted to throw that in here. Oh, and the other person that he can see in color will come back up later. Master, prepare yourself. Frederica jumps in close, but is quickly intercepted. Hollybell knocks the knife out of her hand and pins her to the wall. Why are you doing this, Hollybell? By taking advantage of this turmoil, that man... You could kill him. I understand why you think so. Your children whose weaknesses have been grasped. Y'all desires for freedom with Sue's death. Unfortunately, I don't follow the boss because of my weaknesses. To repay Sue's kindness, that's why I serve him. A kindness? From this man? Stop playing around. Subaru steps closer as Frederica starts to transform. Her hand, now resembling a leopard's paw, swipes at his neck. But all she manages to hit is his scarf. It falls to the ground, and both Hollybell and Frederica are stunned. Scars cover Subaru's neck in the shape of fingers. It won't do. I won't allow that black and white you to kill me. Hollybell, take Frederica and get away. You don't have to come back. I'll settle things my own way. If you want to return my kindness, that'll be enough. In the first place, you got no reason to feel gratitude. I was just being cunning after all. With Sue, I had wanted to be proper friends. If I hadn't run away, that may have been. Accepting Subaru's intention, Hollybell simply said farewell. Frederica, the food was always delicious. They told me that. Frederica did not understand the meaning of that odd sentence. Till the very end, in her eyes, Subaru must have appeared as a monster. That was fine. Even if it was like that, it didn't matter. He had acted as such. He had been as such. Unlike the canon route, she never met him before he left the mansion, so she only knows him as the Purge King. So it kind of makes sense to me that she would only think of him as a monster. She's had plenty of chances to kill him, but that's just not her. I mean, I think she can kill, but she's not one to be underhanded about it. That's not her personality, which is the reason why that she yelled out before attacking. Subaru has had these scars on his neck for all of these years, and Hollybell hadn't seen them yet. Subaru has kept them hidden pretty much this entire time. And that really isn't that surprising. I mean, he has a fear of people, and he's been trying to find other people's weaknesses. And my guess is that he may see these scars as a weakness in himself, but I don't know, who knows. Also, I wonder what he means by the food being delicious. He always has 2 meals delivered, and we have one more person that we know has color that hasn't been introduced yet, so I wonder who it is. Subaru was now alone in the hallway. Pandemonium shook constantly, perhaps evidence that Reinhardt and Sisyphus' battle raged on. However, the multiple voices he could hear from afar showed that the assault was not limited to only Reinhardt. He judged that potential foes had taken advantage of the opportunity. Subaru arrived at a fork. Going right would have him come across Amelia's private quarters, the girl who had supported his weak self. Going left would have him come across another that his weak self had taken as a support, that girl. A girl who he's kept locked away in secret this entire time, who he probably knew beforehand because she still has color? I wonder who it could be. He was stuck in indecision. Before he could move, someone suddenly runs up from behind and stabs him under his left arm. More than this is beyond the scope of my work. Instead of finishing the job, the man runs off. It doesn't say who this was. From what Subaru has said, the place is full of enemies, so it could have been anybody. The best answer that I've seen is Otto, which makes sense. He's a merchant, not a killer. He saw an opportunity and took it, but he also knows that he can't fight, so he just ran off afterwards. More importantly, it says, the man who was supposed to have disappeared in the reception hall came to mind. which is probably referencing Otto right before the attack. Amelia runs barefoot down the hall. Even though she's been there a year, this is the first time that she's seen anything besides her room. So we don't get a definite timeline for everything, but we now know that it's been about a year since Subaru attacked Roswell's mansion. So he left the mansion, and then 2 years later, he came back and attacked, and then this is happening about a year after that. Amelia? Reinhardt? Have you been well? I'm glad to be able to meet you again. Reinhardt, you're gravely wounded. Are you alright? There's no need to worry. The man who called out to her was covered in numerous cuts. Red droplets of blood followed him in the white corridor. His uniform was dirtied and covered in blood, but what was shocking above all was the sword in his hand. That never drawn, never needed holy sword. That blade, in this castle, against whom had it been wielded? Against whom would it be wielded in the future? That even now the shaking continued meant that somewhere in the castle a battle was continuing to take place. In Reinhardt's case, he would wish to head towards his allies to support them. No matter how covered in wounds he was still the world's strongest man. With him, Pandemonium's fall was only a question of time. Amelia, right now we must... In an instant, a sword of ice pierced through Reinhardt's abdomen. Blood flowed through the blade of frost, his insides being destroyed by the invading cold. The sword saint, at the shock he had never felt before, coughed up blood and fell to his knees. Amelia stared blankly at her own fingers. If this had been a betrayal from Amelia's true heart, Reinhardt could have blocked it. Were it an attack holding hostility and intent to kill, Reinhardt's intuition would not have been evaded. I can't. Not that. Subaru is... No. Reinhardt. No. Subaru. I won't let him be hurt. Subaru needs me. As she says her thoughts out loud, her confusion forms into intention. Only at that point did Amelia understand her own feelings. Just as Subaru needed Amelia, Amelia also needed Subaru. If I don't protect Subaru, then... Puck, please. A roar and a cold wind blows as her silver hair flutters beautifully amidst the white hallway. Reinhardt drew a line of blood in midair as he flew back. With his coughing mixed with blood, he lifted his sword. Sorry, Reinhardt. Leah's wishes are my own. If you're that weakened, even I might win. Please, Reinhardt, leave me and Subaru alone. That is not possible. As the head of Pleiades, the Purge King, Subaru Natsuki, has already had 126,702 people killed in total. Jesus fuck. Subaru is directly linked to almost 127,000 deaths. And that's not including the indirect deaths too, but I'm not really sure how much higher that number would be. So part of the reason that Lagunica is after him is because he killed their court magician, and the other part is that he's on a fucking murder rampage across the world. Granted, it's not a huge percentage of the total world population. In the light novel, I think Lagunica is said to have like 50 million or somewhere around there. But for one group to rack up these numbers in less than 3 years is a problem. I think it's over 100 deaths per day. Reinhardt's words held a plea that Amelia would have a change of heart. Sorry, Reinhardt. Subaru is still dear to me. Even having learned about those evil acts, her obsession with Subaru had not wavered. Faced with such a declaration from Amelia, Reinhardt bit his lip. Sword Saint, Reinhardt von Astrea. I'm Amelia, just Amelia. In the next moment, a white shock destroyed the uppermost floor of Pandemonium. The captive princess, who was supposed to be rescued, and the knight in shining armor, who had come to rescue her. Reinhardt is not having a good day. His divine protections are being blocked. He just had to fight one of the strongest swordsmen in the world, and now he's about to fight one of the 4 great spirits alongside of the person that he is supposed to be saving. And Amelia's actions here are bonkers. I mean, in a way they make sense, but I'm going to wait and talk about them because we get a little more info on it later. Sweating profusely, Subaru leaned on the corridor wall and continued moving. Something suitable for the end. Something suitable for these last moments. Given what he had done, he knew for certain that someday he would receive his just desert. It was a shame that he had gone not 3 years before having found his limit. Such was how the dictator would welcome his end. His distrust had been excessive. There was no doubt that it had spurred on this destruction. However, he held no regrets. If he had done this, if he had done that, those kinds of obvious mistakes did not come to mind. He had known from the start that it was wrong, and never thought to correct it. Subaru had done nothing but flounder, much like if he were drowning, as if he had fallen in, only desperate for breath. The Wrath If is also called Drowning in Another World, or something close to that, clearly playing off of the main story, Starting Life in Another World. Oboreru can be used as a shorthand, which translates to drowning. And that is represented throughout the entire story. That's just how Subaru feels like he is living life. He seems like he's this big bad mob boss, but really he's just grasping at straws and hoping that it will eventually work out. Even though it's not working out very well right now, it doesn't bother him all that much. He's not disconnected from his actions. He pretty much figured this was always the most likely outcome, but he didn't know what else to do. So in some way, he's okay with all of this. What's important to him is how he goes out. So he's looking for one of the two people that he still trusts. Subaru. For a moment, he didn't understand that voice. It wasn't that he didn't know it, but because he couldn't comprehend why he was hearing that voice at this place. Her private quarters were on the opposite side of the building, and there would be no reason to be here if her intention were to escape. She rushes to him, knocking him over in the process. I'm relieved, Subaru. I can meet you properly. Amelia? Her existence there in front of him, proof that color still exists in this world. But why? Amelia, you're hurt. Amelia, still embracing him, looked at him again, smiling, putting on a brave front. She was covered in wounds all over. What has Puck been doing? Puck is... about that. Everything's fine now. It's not in the web novel, but Puck is still back there fighting Reinhardt. In fact, Hollybell comes back and he gets caught up in that fight too. And both Puck and Hollybell will die to Reinhardt. Subaru, let's run away together. If we do it now, no one will chase after us. All I did was presume upon you because you're kind. Really? Did you? I've been thinking about that too. I do believe I was angry with you, Subaru, but it was truly only at the beginning. After that, I thought I was definitely receiving Subaru's help. Because Subaru, you needed me. Nobody would ever need me. That's how I had felt. And you'd freed me of that. And so, Subaru, I want to be with you. So let's run away. A word surfaced inside Subaru's mind. Codependence. All that time he had relied on her. She had grown to rely on him. This explains Amelia's actions. I said before that she is useless, and she recognizes it too. This kind of happens in the main story, so it's not that surprising that it happened here. In this story, she finds a way to be useful by being there for Subaru, and it definitely feels like some Stockholm Syndrome shit. I mean, think about where she was before coming to Pandemonium. Part of her dream, which hasn't been said by this point in the story, included her becoming the ruler of Lagunica. Well, at least that's what she thought. She was no longer a candidate, so that wasn't going to happen. And given what we know about her character, she probably didn't know what to do next and ended up doing nothing. So no plan, no goal, and she probably felt meaningless. Once Subaru locked her away, she was cut off from finding meaning in anything else. So it was only a matter of time before she either lost it and went insane, or found meaning in something else, which was only ever going to be Subaru. So while I will shit talk Amelia for her inaction, I'm not going to be too hard on her for coming to this conclusion. What Amelia had said, running away with her, was not possible. Reinhardt was coming. Even if Sisyllus had attempted to hold him at bay, outside the castle a massive crowd of enemies would be gathering to subjugate the Purge King. No longer did Subaru possess a single ally outside the castle. He was to meet his end here, but Amelia clung to him even more. Then I'll die together with you. We'll meet the end together. I don't want to stay in a place where you won't need me. At that moment, Subaru was stunned. More than when he was stabbed, or when Reinhardt first appeared, or when he realized that this was the end. Grabbing Amelia's shoulders, Subaru shoved her away. He stands up, eyes open wide in shock, and takes a step back. That's a lie. No, please stop. Stop it. Why me? Why now? Why? Stop it. Please stop. Fear. There was fear. There was nothing but fear. Memories start to flood in. With so much of the witch's stench drifting from you, there's a limit to how much you can pretend to be unrelated to her. These are quotes from Rem back when she was torturing him to death outside the mansion, just in case you don't remember. Subaru screams, as if trying to drown out the voice in his head. He screams to the point of vomiting blood. Amelia, seeing his pain, rushes to his side, trying to console him. But her words can't reach him. Don't be kind to me. Don't treat me gently. Just how many evil deeds do you think I've piled up? Amelia shouldn't have forgiven them. It would have been fine if you hated me. It would have been fine if you shunned me. To Subaru's horror, he watches as her color fades. No matter what, you'll come to hate something about me, won't you? You'll come to doubt me. Because I'm an obstacle, you'll think about murdering me, of hating me, of cursing me, and you'll come to betray me. Then please keep hating me, like it was at the start. If you just stayed like that, it would have been fine. Just do as you did and hate me. Anger was welling up. Something that changed would one day come to betray him, and because of that, it was similar to having been betrayed already. Please don't pretend to be in love with me when you'll just betray me one day. Subaru shoved away the monochrome Amelia, causing her to fall over in the hallway. For a moment, hesitation brushes against his chest, but Subaru fully paints over it with fear. He is drowning in fear. And I know that's kind of the entire point of the story, but we're seeing just how extreme that fear is. He has spent 3 years building up this organization and killing a lot of people because he is afraid that if he starts to trust people, then they will betray him. It's been steadily getting worse, and it's even at the point that he doesn't even trust Amelia anymore simply because she is willing to forgive him. That this would come to pass, it was the very last possibility he had considered. That Amelia could, someday, forgive him. Left in the world of only black and white, he could only rely on his last resort. Subaru turned and began sprinting. He could no longer hear the words Amelia screamed at him. He could no longer feel any pain in his side. He no longer cared about such things. There was merely a wish to end everything. Subaru's world of color was disappearing entirely. What remained was the last straw into which the drowning Subaru clung unto, an existence with hatred that would never change, which would never forgive. He arrived at his office. He kept Amelia locked away to keep her safe, but this was the opposite. A door concealed behind the bookshelf, a door that only Subaru would be able to open. The sound of chains reverberated. Finally, did you come wanting to die, Borosu? Solely because of her hatred, the girl that desired to murder him held a minute smile with the color of blood. And that is the end of the story. We get left on a little bit of a cliffhanger there. Kind of. We know that he still has Return by Death, so it looks like he's just going to be killed by Ram and reset. Except there is one other possibility. Another one of the if routes shows that it is possible for Subaru to die, like permanently die. So there is some criteria that can be met to escape Return by Death. In that story, Subaru accepts the outcome. It's not just him wanting to die, it's him being okay with the situation that's going to be left after he dies. He has wanted to die several times throughout the main story, but he's never been cool with what's happening in the world. He wants to fix things, and he wants these situations to be better, so he resets. So going back to this story, he was okay with the attack on Pandemonium. He went to Ram because he wanted her to be the one to kill him. So there is a chance that he dies here, and that's just it. But with what we saw with Amelia there at the end, it's also possible that Subaru doesn't want that to be the ending, and then he just resets. So that's the cliffhanger that we're left with. It's pretty certain that he dies, but we don't know what happens after that. I mean, him escaping Return by Death isn't really canon, but neither is anything in this story, so just make up whatever ending you want, I guess. And I gotta say, villain Subaru is actually a lot more badass than I was expecting. I mean, even if in this case it was all just a front to hide his fears, he still played a decent villain. I mean, with Return by Death, he can kind of do whatever he wants. I just didn't think that it was within his personality to do all of this. But I guess that's kind of the point of the entire If series. I don't think it completely matches his personality, but it's also not completely out of the question. It's like some parts are exaggerated because of the different decisions that he makes. Even if it's not canon, it's still interesting to see these alternate routes that Subaru could have went down. I mean, to me, it shows just how well he is doing in the main story. Because sometimes it is really hard to see Subaru doing well when I'm going through the story. Anyway, that is it. I do plan on going through the other If stories, but it's probably going to be a while. See ya!